Get ready to begin. I want to welcome you to the a joint caucus discussion this morning on reshoring, offshoring, the various issues associated with that. And this is a joint session between the Economy, Business, and Jobs Caucus and also the Manufacturing Caucus. And we have here, I'm Senator Mensch, one of the co-chairs of the EBJ, or the Economy, Business, Jobs, and Senator Ward, who is co-chair of the, who's your other co-chair? Larry? Larry, you are now, right? Okay. Senator Farnese and Senator Ward are both the co-chairs of the Manufacturing Caucus, and I'm also joined by Senator Pat Stefano. So it's great to see you all. This is going to be a crazy day. There will be some in and out from the legislators, I'm sure. I know I have to jump in and out and work on calendar. We have the governor's session today on opioids as well. So we're going to try and keep things moving. Usually we have much more discussion, but the clock is just working against us a little bit today. So I hope you can all work with us and understand. Senator Ward, Senator Farnese, any opening comments from the Manufacturing Caucus?
Good morning. It's really nice to see everyone here, and it's a great opportunity for us to have some back and forth, because I don't need to go into big details because you all already know how important manufacturing and the jobs that it produces is to our economy.
Thank you. Again, I'll just echo the comments of Chairwoman Ward. Happy to be here today, but more importantly, happy to have folks like yourselves here today to educate us and let us know really what we're doing right and what we could be doing a little bit better to ensure that the jobs and economy are moving forward. So thank you very much, Chairman, for allowing us to be here today.
That's great. And honestly, there's so much overlap between what we do in EBJ and what you do in manufacturing that I think it's really great that we can work together on these programs. Let's begin. Our first testifier today is Eileen Cipriani, Deputy Secretary of Workforce Development and Partnership from the Pennsylvania Department of Labor. Good morning. We're glad that you could join us today, and whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Chairman Mensch, Chairman Farnese. Regarding reshoring, offshoring, and the Department of Labor and Industry's efforts to help bring jobs back to Pennsylvania. My name is Eileen Cipriani, and I'm the Deputy Secretary for Workforce in the Department. In Pennsylvania, the manufacturing industry has seen both declines and increases over the past 5 to 10 years, with some recent successes making considerable differences in local economies. The Lehigh Valley recently boasted of hitting an economic output high of $37 billion in 2015, due in part to large gains in manufacturing. This is an outcome of matching employer needs with training and development within the local workforce system. It's projected that nearly 3.5 million manufacturing jobs in the United States must be filled over the next decade, but only about 1.5 million people possess the necessary skills to do this work. This leaves us to address the significant skills gap within our workforce. Labor and Industry's overriding goal is to provide an appropriately trained workforce to meet all employer needs, which involves filling this skill gap. We seek to train workers for jobs necessary to supply current workforce needs and future needs of employers. As companies choose technology over workers in the Great Recession, some found they didn't need to bring those workers back as the economy recovered. Technology replaced people. However, technology also presents new opportunities. Companies need skilled workers to repair 3D printing robots, engineer their use, provide IT, and create ways to use the technology to grow their businesses. The appearance and growth of robotics, 3D printing, mechatronics, and related technologies call for new forms of education and training to fill these occupations. Labor and Industry's efforts to train and place skilled workers in New World manufacturing jobs begin long before the workers' first day. Our efforts include involvement in middle school career mentoring, on-the-job training for new and incumbent workers. The Department Center for Workforce Information and Analysis produces an annual middle and high school career guide featuring in its most recent issue a special section on manufacturing careers. This new issue will be released later this year. The department has increased its focus on manufacturing apprenticeships in this year. There is an array of apprenticeship programs available in the field of manufacturing through L&I's recently created Office of Apprenticeship and Training. Employers such as Orbig Industries, Kimberly-Clark, Phoenix Contact, Mack Truck Inc., and the Northwest National Tool Machining Association offer great programs in each region of the state. We have also had our first competency-based Megatronics apprenticeship approved for companies Audemont and Kinnear. These efforts are helping us become even more well-prepared for reshoring efforts across the state. Modern manufacturing is not dark, dirty, and dangerous, and the more opportunities we have to showcase those facts, the better. Secretary Mandarino has been traveling the state for more than 18 months, visiting manufacturers to tour facilities, talk to workers and owners about how manufacturing is changing, and what career paths and training are needed for the new incumbent workers, and how we can help provide those skilled workers. Young people need to consider manufacturing as a viable career option that may not require a four-year college degree. Older workers, some faced with unfortunate layoffs, need to feel confident that their careers can continue through training and services that we provide through rapid response in the PA CareerLink system. Pennsylvania has been at the leading edge of a U.S. movement to build a workforce system that is responsive and can meet the skill needs of employers, expand opportunity and security for workers, and improve the overall employment conditions of the Commonwealth. It is the strength and skill of our workforce that will help bring prosperity to Pennsylvania. It is the government's role to encourage companies and workers to utilize existing labor market devices like employment and training and develop new and innovative ways to build skills for our workforce. As a leader of a collaborative effort to create a state plan and implement Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Labor and Industry is ensuring we meet the federal guidelines and bring all appropriate partners in workforce development to the table. These efforts continue. Pennsylvania's educational and training systems are too often disconnected from the state's economy. Industry partnerships are critical to our state and are key institutional innovation for meeting the skill needs of businesses, career goals of workers, and the economic development in our Commonwealth. Industry partnerships help connect the needs of workers and businesses. They bring together multiple employers and workers in the same industry to address common human talent needs and to create programs that are not only cost-effective, but produce quantifiable results, putting skilled workers into jobs that pay. The Industry Partnership Program has the ability to spur advancement, growth, and creation by prioritizing funds to occupational areas of critical need. Unfortunately, despite Governor Wolf asking for increased IP funding to levels in years past, IPs continue to be funded far below what is needed to make these programs achieve greater success and meet the demands of employers and workers across the Commonwealth. All services of the department in the PA CareerLink locations are provided to services people free of charge. We also apply for and receive multiple federal grants to in turn fund training development programs. But we need the support of the state to support local programs and training as is accomplished by IPs and the Apprenticeship and Training Program. The Strategic Early Warning Network, SOAN, and its 5 offices in the state, is a layoff aversion program working to save Pennsylvania manufacturing jobs one at a time. The department supports SOAN both financially through a $1.5 million annual grant and programmatically through initiatives that supplement SOAN's efforts. SOAN's efforts complement L&I's current workforce development and economic recovery efforts that focus on employer by saving and creating skilled, sustainable, productive economy jobs through layoff aversion, responsible capital management, and building sustainable communities. SOAN's significant knowledge and extensive experience in working with the department's workforce development system and its many local, statewide, and industry partnerships, rapid response programs and services, PA CareerLink locations, and local workforce development boards helps us work collaboratively with all stakeholders in the workforce development system, something that wasn't always done in the past. We know that bringing these entities together, they're all involved in a successful workforce development system, meaning a stronger system in a stronger Pennsylvania. The department is prepared to continue to support layoff aversion with strategies that refocus skills, company growth, and training, and to provide the skilled workforce employers need today, tomorrow, and in the next 10 years. While employers may look for tax credits and other government-supplied incentives when deciding to locate in our state, we know that a solid workforce is the backbone of business success. The workforce is made up of people, and people make the difference. Labor and industry plays a key role in offering new businesses what they need to confidently set up shop in Pennsylvania. In addition to rapid response and PA CareerLink services, Labor and Industry oversees federal trade assistance programs and administers through the unemployment compensation the PA Shared Work Program that saves jobs by allowing an employer to temporarily reduce the work hours of a group of employees as an alternate to layoff. Employees covered by the plan receive a percentage of their UC benefit amount while they work a reduced schedule. Regardless of if this joint caucus discussion results in legislation or policy, the Department of Labor and Industry remains devoted to working with employers, job seekers, workers, our sister agencies, and various providers of training and education in the Commonwealth to secure a well-trained workforce that meets both employer needs of today and well into the future. I thank you, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, excuse me. Thank you, Secretary, for your comments. Members, any questions or comments? Senator Ward.
I just have one question. We're talking about the workforce and getting it, having trained workforce. How early in the schools do they start to promote manufacturing with the students?
Well, what we are trying to push for is to start in middle school, because that's a critical point when children start making decision processes. But what we really think, it's the parents that really need to be educated, and that would be how, if we could target them, that would be all the better, because people still have that perception of manufacturing as being as it was years ago, and it's certainly not. It's very automated, it's high-tech, and you need advanced degrees in order to work in it successfully.
Senator Stefano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman. Deputy Secretary, I have a simple question. Some of these apprentice programs that you have, how are you measuring your success?
How are we measuring their success? We've been tracking it through our CWDS system. We're preparing to change over our system so that we can actually track it better, because these programs, a lot of these are new. We're actually in the process of applying for additional federal funding through a grant with our goal of increasing apprenticeships by 25% in the Commonwealth in the next 3 years. But we are tracking it through our measuring system.
Just to expand on that, what do you consider a success?
Well, a well-paying job and a family-sustaining job is what we consider a success. In all of our apprenticeship programs, what we look for is when you enter the program, you actually have a job with an employer on the other side. So measuring success is gainful employment.
Is filling the vacant job openings then?
Pardon?
Filling the vacant job openings with
Yes.
qualified candidates. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, I mean, I think it's important to underscore the work of Secretary Mandarino. I think I know for one, I have seen her, traveling in terms of not only in Philadelphia in the time I've been there, but all over the state. So certainly,
Yes.
And her and the department need to be commended. So I just want to underscore that. And I think it's important. I think Senator Ward's point about the early effort and the collaborative effort with younger folks, getting them involved, I think it's extremely important, and whatever we can do to continue to enhance that, I think it's something that we should really look into.
Okay, thank you.
I know that your comments about layoff aversion were music to Tom Croft's ears, and we'll talk more about that when Tom comes up, but that Steel Valley is a great investment, or Sown, great investment. You talked about Lehigh Valley, and I flew the flag for many years in Lehigh Valley in the Allentown area, and I watched the economic change happening all around us with the ultimate demise of Bethlehem Steel, one of the largest employers, the break of the Bell system, which really took a lot of the electronics jobs out of Western Electric, Bell Laboratories, between Reading and Allentown, 12,000 jobs. Lehigh University, though, and the remnants, if you will, of the AT&T breakup, did a lot to reseed new businesses in electronics, and I think that's probably helped a lot with the success that the Lehigh Valley has seen, and the Economic Development Authority up there, and there are a lot of good things working for them. I have to say, too, I work in a number of counties as a senator, and the WIB in the Lehigh Valley is probably the best that I've seen.
They do an excellent job.
and I was interested, you know, it's now in in one of our old plants for Bell Laboratories, so that and Career Link. It's nice to see the repurposing and the continuity there for the jobs. But I also have areas like Pottstown in my district. And Pottstown was much more blue-collar smokestack, and with the demise of those jobs, they haven't come back yet. And we're talking about 4 decades now. So we have some successes, we really do, and we need to applaud those and stand up and shout about those, but we also have a lot of areas that are still lagging. And I struggle when I'm meeting with the town fathers, the economic people in those areas, on how do we kickstart? What do we do? Is Alerta, is some kind of economic development program from the state what they need? Or how, I'm interested in your thoughts because of the diversity of the situations.
Right. What we are going to roll out starting probably in November, the workforce development system is working in tandem with DCED. And we're going to go out and we're having sector strategy meetings, and we're coordinating our staff and DCED staff to work in unison to try and bring jobs back. And we're also using their products, their WEDNet, our industry partnership grants that we're putting out to try and bring money in to start redevelopment and start bringing jobs back to those areas. But I think these sector strategy meetings are very important to have a high degree of coordination between DCED and workforce. And this is something new that we're trying, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, there's also an environmental component to this. Pottstown, for instance, a lot of brownfield sitting idle, and could be easily repurposed if we have good transportation infrastructure, but we need better, and we need some other things to complement that. Now, you talked about, too, my last thought, you talked about schools and getting the kids interested a lot earlier. I know that I grew up in an environment, Dad wanted it better than he had it, okay? And that happens repeatedly in the American family. So the young people have been discouraged from the manufacturing jobs. And in your commentary, you're talking that they're no longer dirty and dank and dangerous like we once thought of with manufacturing jobs. How is your department, how are your charge, how are you doing with educating? Are you working with the school districts, or what's the program?
To a certain degree, we're rolling out a program, a business education partnership program that will roll out later in the year to supply funding to connect businesses and educators so that we could actually go to the school teachers and have them come to businesses so they understand that these businesses are not the manufacturing that they perceived of old, that these are new high-tech, so that they could actually spread that message to the students. That's where I think the connection needs to be between the parents and the teachers, that they understand what today's manufacturing looks like compared to what it's perceived to look like of old.
Very good. There's a company there's several companies in the district that do CNC work, but one in particular has landed a very large contract, and 2 miles down the street is a VOTEC school, and they can't fill the class in VOTEC for CNC operators to be able to transition to that kind of employment. There's a real gap there, and I know that the employer is actually working with the director of the program, and we're trying everything that we can, but it's really a cultural issue. You know, we have this long-standing bias against manufacturing that we really have to work and try to erase.
Another popular trend that's occurring across the state is pre-apprenticeship, which gives us an opportunity to take students just as they come out of school and get them work ready to head into these apprenticeship programs or other career choices, because there's often a little bit of a gap between what they're learning in high school and what they need to start into the workforce.
Very good. Yes, Senator Ward.
So when you're talking with students and when you start to educate them on, you know, manufacturing is not, as you said, dark and dirty anymore. Do they talk about the incomes, the possibilities of, you know, they will get a good job? Right,
and our career readiness guide does lay that out. There's also some other strategies that are coming out that there's an organization in Pittsburgh that's using phone apps. And on the phone app, it's like sort of a video game that describes different manufacturing settings to try and spur interest and get them to understand just what goes on in that field.
And just letting them know that there is a lot of respect for what they're going to do. My dad was a machinist in a steelworkers union, learned his trade walking on the shop floor. You can't do that anymore. Do they do awards for students? I know that we have robotics contests all over the place, but, you know, achievement with a student that they are recognized and.
You know, I'm not certain if that goes on in the schools but that is something, you're right, that is
That should
something
go
that
on.
would be helpful.
That's a big deal.
Secretary was out at a robotics event out in Pittsburgh, and she said the gym was absolutely packed. Yes, said it was wonderful.
Very good. Secretary, thank you.
Thank
I would
you.
look forward to a lot of continuing dialogue on some of these issues. I think they're important to the state, and they're certainly important to the legislature. So
Thank you. I
very
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Right. We've been joined by Senator Elder Vogel. So, Elder, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Our next presenter will be Tom Croft. And Tom is the Executive Director of the Steel Valley Authority from Pittsburgh. And you're going to have Mr.
I was going to have Mr. Rongione
Okay.
join as well.
Okay. And for the interest of the audience, the thought for this meeting began with a conversation with Tom and myself about the reshoring that Bollman Hats has been doing. And it's quite a success story. And it's, I was very interested, and I hope the others are too as well. So, gentlemen, when you're ready.
And I want to thank Mr. Rongione for attending, and also Deputy Secretary Cipriani and the department for their support of our strategic early warning network. So you have a presentation in your packet. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on reshoring, but I'm going to give you just a thumbnail on the work we do, just in the event that some of you are not aware of the work that we do, because in reality, the Steel Valley Authority and our Strategic Early Warning Network is the most effective and most cost-efficient and most successful layout reversion program in the United States, and we've been recognized as that by the U.S. Department of Labor and by other states who have invited us to help them establish similar programs. So I'll just get started, but one of the pieces of good news to bring, and we've obtained this information from Harry Moser of the Reshoring Institute, is that companies are coming back to Pennsylvania, and they're bringing some of their product lines, and there's also, you know, a number of foreign direct investments that are happening, and these are just some of the ones, I believe, in the last few years. So I'm starting just giving you some general view of what's happening with reshoring, and as Senator mentioned, I sort of began talking about this. And I appreciate Senator Mensch the opportunity to be here. You know, we were able to discuss the fact that there are a number of industries which, based on the Boston Consulting Group, are at a tipping point in terms of reshoring. And that means basically that wages in China and other offshore locations have been rising, and that other factors are now beginning to drive companies wanting to bring some of that production back. There's the cost of shipping overseas. There's the which are unknown cost and uncertain cost. There's also the cost of the logistical cost of trying to design something in the U.S. and put it into operation when you have production facilities that might be 5,000, 8,000 miles away. There's also the issues of corporate theft, information theft, et cetera. And so you're beginning to see in this country a renaissance in manufacturing. It's a small renaissance, but one nonetheless. And these industries are where you're seeing some additions of jobs, and to the point where the numbers of jobs being brought back are beginning to equal the numbers of jobs going offshore in some of these industries, which is great news for America and for American communities. The SVA is an intermunicipal authority. For those of you that don't know us, we were started back when the steel mills were closing in Pittsburgh. But over the years, we've developed a number of programs to assist manufacturing companies in general. We focused on basically making manufacturing jobs more competitive, and we've been able to establish the early warning network over these years. as a program that now offers 5 offices to manufacturers across the state, and it's acclaimed, as I said, as the most effective program in the U.S. Try to get to companies before they reach the crisis stage, and the service is free of charge. The program that we manage and offer to companies basically provides 5 field directors across the state and our deputy director who directly go in and see up to 80 to 100 companies a year. And most of our directors have come out of private industry. Layoff aversion is a program that's been around since '98, but it's now become a required activity of the Workforce Investment Act. The way we think of layoff aversion, it's one piece of a continuum of services that meets the business life cycle needs of companies, including other business engagement services. We also see it as a way to sort of utilize some strategic planning to get ahead of what's happening in the industries such as the gas and coal industries and those trends, industrial downsizing in the manufacturing, the defense manufacturing sectors, and we spent some time working on the auto downturns a few years ago. So we try to look ahead and see what trends are happening in various industry sectors so we can step in and working with the state help those companies. I'm going to walk through some of these just because I just wanted to get to the reshoring data. Sorry, thank you. And the map shows you here basically the numbers of companies we've worked with over the years since '93. That includes 1,100 manufacturing firms, and we've saved over 22,000 jobs. This is the job loss, or job saves in the last 5 years. The total cost to save 6,000 jobs was about $5,800,000. If you look at what we saved in unemployment benefits at saving over 1,000 jobs per year, we saved something like almost $38 million in unemployment compensation costs. These are economic impact stories and shows that basically the cost of layoff aversion pays for itself. Essentially, we use 2 strategies. One is a business intelligence infrastructure to assess data, much of which is public data, but also private data. We also then send field directors into our companies along with our expert turnaround consulting folks to essentially provide services within 48 hours of receiving a notice that a company is in trouble. This is some of the data that we've utilized over the years. We built a dashboard so we can get a general sense of where companies need help and when they need help. And then these are the 4 or 5 key services, financial operational restructuring being kind of the primary service we offer, but also ownership transitions and marketing and sales diversification and workforce strategies. We generally work with smaller businesses. Larger companies have made decisions far in advance, and we're not able to oftentimes help those companies, and they can usually afford their own turnaround assistance if they need it. So in terms of thinking about a reshoring case, can we make a business case in Pennsylvania for bringing companies back? We think we can. We think we can start with some low cost, basically some pulling together of existing resources. And so we're suggesting a Make It in PA reshoring task force that includes the public sector, along with our friends at the Department of Community and Economic Development and the DL&I. And DCED has been doing some work on this, and I'll mention some of the projects they've worked on. But we could also bring in our trade adjustment program from the SBA, the MEPs and IRCs. And then the private sector is important in this as well. The banks, CPAs, attorneys, trade organizations, chambers, and manufacturing alliances. And then we think labor and education more broadly, which could develop union partnerships to help grow firms and reduce health benefit costs, labor management committees, job training, on-the-job training, CJTs, apprenticeship programs, and partnerships with university programs. So currently, these are some of the general services that exist to help companies in Pennsylvania. And we think that you see the sort of alphabet soup of services from retention to other kinds of business growth. But we think some of these existing services could be turned toward a special reshoring task force effort to identify companies that need help over the longer term. We've worked with several companies over the last several months. Our team leader down here in the Harrisburg area, Patrick Meese, worked with the Southeast Pennsylvania reshoring project and worked with a number of companies' engagements already. There's a lot of benefits to bringing companies back in terms of lowering production costs, diminishing risk, especially improving quality and reliability. You know, these are the kinds of pitches we think can be made to companies to give them more confidence that they may be able to bring some of those jobs back, and also to convince them that it might be a mistake to take some of those products overseas as well. So we think we're in a unique position in terms of helping lead an effort to bring companies back to Pennsylvania. We can go in and provide full spectrum financial assistance and operational expertise, diversification and market development help, and other kinds of restructuring assistance. And those are the kinds of things that are needed, along with the other capacities of the state. One of the issues that happens in reshoring is these things take time. You know, when you have economic development grants and loans and programs, generally you're expected to complete a project within a certain time period. It takes a little bit longer in terms of some of these projects, as Don will mention, in terms of turning the ship. So if you've got production overseas, bringing that back is not, it's not sometimes a one-year project. It could take more than that, and we want to make sure that there's an understanding that the businesses have to keep their core business stable while they are also then trying to move into this other endeavor to add capacity. So those are some of the issues that we provided in terms of nearshoring and reshoring and trying to bring jobs back. So these are the recommendations. We think there's a place for a small but flexible reshoring task force, an engagement team of 3 to 4 individuals that have professional experience in manufacturing and economic development and other industries that might be interested in reshoring. We think that there might be some additional comprehensive state assistance and other incentives and grants. For instance, as Don will mention, bringing back equipment is very costly. We think there needs to be an understanding of how do we ensure that the supply chains are there to create success for those companies that do bring back companies, and then comprehensive workforce development assistance and being able to get on-the-job training into those facilities for those employees that might be brought back. This is not a formula. This is more of an art, so we want to just encourage you to think more broadly about, you know, beyond sort of a traditional economic development loan or grant. We need to sort of think more broadly as how to structure a program that's going to help to reverse the last 30 years of companies, you know, taking production offshore. And we think that we could develop manufacturing and labor alliances across the state, or manufacturing renaissance conferences, as they call those in Illinois, as a way to generally educate the private sector and the community about the perspective and the potential and opportunity to begin reshoring our industries. Thank you very much, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Tom. I know a number of the members here are on appropriations with me, and they hear me argue for your funding every year.
Thank you.
But I just want to say it is the best $1.5 million the state invests.
Thank you very much,
There's
sir.
no doubt.
Thank you,
So,
Senator.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have questions or comments for Mr. Croft? All right, let's move on to Mr. Rongione.
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 If it was Italy, it would be Rongione.
There you go.
My mother changed it.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Don Rongione. I'm the president and CEO of the Bollman Hat Company. We're America's oldest hat maker, founded in 1868 in Adamstown, Pennsylvania, which is in Lancaster County on the border of Berks County. We are an employee-owned company. In 1985, we established an employee stock ownership plan, so all of our U.S.-based employees become owners of our business, and that's a very important part of who we are, part of our culture. Our mission is to provide growth opportunities for our employee owners by profitably building headwear brands and selling those products in targeted markets throughout the world. We've provided jobs for tens of thousands of people during our near 150 years. We're the oldest hat maker because we've out-survived all of the other hat companies. We weren't the first to make a hat in the United States, but we've out-survived all the others. And there were literally dozens of hat companies in Pennsylvania back in the 1800s when the industry started. We focused on manufacturing for our first 100 years, acquiring other hat makers and acquiring other technology to make different types of hats, including fur felt and straw hats. But what we've done for all of our 150 years is make a wool felt hat, which starts with raw wool from the sheep's back. We clean it in San Angelo, Texas, bring it to Pennsylvania where we blend it, card it, felt it, dye it, block it, and there are literally 80 different labor operations involved in making a quality wool felt hat, which provides meaningful jobs. We are not a high-tech industry. You might say we're low-tech. It's not dirty, dark, or what was the other one? Dangerous, but it's not glamorous. We provide family-sustaining jobs for our employee owners, and obviously that's an important part of who we are. We found about 40 years ago that it was becoming difficult to compete in our industry with just a private label focused business, meaning we had no brand identities in the marketplace. And we began to acquire other businesses that had brand identities in the headwear space, and that helped us to reach retailers and customers that we weren't otherwise reaching. When China gained most favored nation status, that had a tremendous adverse effect on our company and our domestic manufacturing, where we were seeing product coming in from China that was selling at less than our cost to produce it. So clearly, it was a complete competitive disadvantage. We were not a company that was looking to maximize profits and take business and jobs offshore. We were looking to sustain the manufacturing jobs, which is part of our heritage, part of being an employee-owned company. After seeing a job loss, and at one point we had to lay off over 100 employee owners through no fault of theirs, we just didn't have the orders to support. In some cases, these were 30, 40-year term employees with our companies, sometimes third or even fourth generations to work in our company, and we just couldn't support those jobs. It led me to think about what I could do personally to prevent that from happening again, and not just for my company, but for other companies facing similar dilemmas. And we established an organization that's called America Made Matters. Today, America Made Matters has nearly 400 members in 46 of the 50 United States, and our mission is to educate consumers on the importance of buying U.S.-made products to strengthen the American dream. And that gets back to consumer education, that it's worth paying a little bit more at times to get the quality that American manufacturers can produce, and also to provide the jobs, stronger communities, stronger national economy, local economies that manufacturing creates. It's been documented that manufacturing creates 3 to 5 additional jobs for every 1 manufacturing job, which is more powerful than any other segment of the economy, government, service industries, healthcare, education, et cetera. So manufacturing is in our DNA. It's who we are, and it's an important part of our culture. We acquired the rights to Kangol, a brand that you'll know by the kangaroo logo. Samuel L. Jackson's commonly wearing this hat or something like it in 2001 as part of our strategic plan of acquiring brand names that are meaningful in our industry and helping us to secure our future. Kangol was not producing anything in the United States. It was a British brand that was producing in the UK. And when we acquired the rights in 2001, we acquired all the operating assets, which included a plant in China which they had started to produce most of their product in. They had transitioned from the UK to China in order to improve their margins and help survive their company. And so for a time from 2001 to 2006, we owned a manufacturing plant in Panyu, China. We found that difficult to manage from Pennsylvania, difficult to control, and it was losing money, and we decided to sell that plant, which we did in 2006. That the owner of that factory, which was a Chinese hat maker, decided to exit that factory and moved their jobs to Bangladesh, where they were paying their people about $29 a month, and decided not to move the knitting equipment that was essential to making the Kangol product. We stepped in and leased the factory and the equipment with an option to buy the equipment at the end of the lease term, and paid well above market rates to do that in order to sustain product for our most important brand, Kangol, which is 25% of our business, and meet our customers' needs, with the intent of trying to find an alternative supply source, which obviously, as America's oldest hat maker and employee-owned company, founders of America Made Matters, Pennsylvania, and our factory in Adamstown was going to be our first choice. So at the end of the 2-year term, we lost $2.5 million in excess costs in the first year, 1.2 in the second year. Kangol had gone from our most profitable brand to a loss-making part of our business. We did buy the equipment that was 70, 80 years old, purpose-built in the UK, moved to China, and have moved that equipment now to Pennsylvania. We have over 100 machines in Pennsylvania. We have about 10, 15 of those running right now, so we're in the early stages of climbing this mountain. We've hired 20 employee owners who are working on now knitting this type of cap in Adamstown, Pennsylvania. This is the first time ever that a knitted and blocked Kangol cap has been made in Pennsylvania. I'm happy to say that all 3 of these were made right here in Pennsylvania this year by employee owners who have just been hired and trained to do these jobs. We are not successful yet. We need to cut about 2/3 of the labor costs out of the process to make this product and compete successfully at the price points where this product has historically sold. So it was not our objective to charge more because we were making it in the United States. It was our objective to charge the same price and to meet or improve the quality level and retain the market but provide jobs. Quicker speed to market, some of the things that Tom's mentioned, control of our intellectual property, being able to control our inventory better, innovation close to where we're headquartered was all part of some of the thinking, and we did work with Sohn and others to help rationalize why this made sense, not just in our hearts as America's oldest hat maker, but in our heads as stewards of our company who are looking to continue our company for at least another 150 years, and came to a conclusion that over time, if we became proficient at making these hats at the same efficiency levels that they were made in China, using our labor rates here in Pennsylvania, that the cost would start to become equal over about a 5-year journey. And ultimately, if it continued on that trajectory, it would become less expensive to produce it here. Now, that is assuming that we're not increasing minimum wage levels to $15 an hour. We do start at $10.30 an hour for people who have no prior experience in making this product. Our wages will go up to $25 an hour for people who are trained and fully adept at doing these jobs. They're not glamorous manufacturing jobs. It can be hot, but it's not dirty, dark, or dangerous. And people take great pride in producing a product that they wear and that they see others, celebrities and others wearing. Not all manufacturing and America Made Matters members are dedicated to consumer products. Many are making parts and components and raw materials, processing raw materials that are needed in manufacturing. And so we're not just focused on consumer products, but obviously those that produce consumer products have needs for other manufacturing support.
Very good, very compelling story. Thank you for sharing. Senator Stefano?
I had a question here and then it left me.
He needs a hat.
Yeah, I've got one for him. This might look good on him. We
hat and a
go to the
sandwich
same barber.
board.
Yeah, we do share the same barber.
A hat and a sandwich board. He could probably bring you some business. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Questions, comments for? Yes. Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just think it's, again, I echo Chairman Mensch's comments. I think it is fast. I mean, I remember back in, I think it was around 2001, I think when you guys did the licensing agreement, I think, with I guess, Kango. I was working for a client that had recently done licensing for Scrunchy, the hair. It was a patent lawyer. And it was just fascinating. I remember reading about that. My grandfather was, I guess, was a haberdashery, owned a haberdashery on Passyunk Avenue years and years ago. But it is coming back. I mean, the idea of, young people and very stylish people, I guess neither of which I fall into, are wearing hats today at a very increased pace. We've got a ton of these new, very cool stores opening up, not only in Philadelphia, but in my district alone. Hats in the Belfry or Gorin hats. Do you guys, are you doing business with those?
Absolutely, yeah. So we
I
do over $1
figured as
million a
much.
year
It's
with
your
Gorin,
brand.
as
I
they're
see.
one of our private label customers. Hats in the Belfry carries all of
Hats
our
in the
brands.
Belfry, another
They
great-
just toured our factory last week and posted a number of shots on social media.
That's great. I mean, I can't walk around on a Saturday in my district and not see another, just hat store pop up, and it is populated by, young folks, millennials, you want to, so to speak, that are really wearing them, that are getting in. And I think what you're doing, not only with the Kango, I think, but with all the different styles. I mean, I go into these stores and they're not just the Kango. I mean, they're younger folks, and I think folks of all ages are wearing hats again. But it is definitely becoming a part of I guess popular culture and a fashion statement. So
Yeah, well, that's
I think
music to my ears.
You really is. I think it's great what you're doing. I see your product, and I see all over my district, and I'm just happy to see you here today. And congratulations, and continue everything you're doing, because it's really successful.
Thank you for that. I would say that our success is not there yet. We're still more surviving than thriving, quite honestly. We're modestly profitable. We went through a lot of years we were loss-making. Ours is a very cyclical business.
Right.
Our grandfathers all wore hats as part of, and grandmothers, as part of the daily attire and part of the daily uniform, but I suspect I'm the only one that wore a hat here today. And so we need to really grow the market and also be more competitive in the market. And with China and others getting free access to our market, it has been a challenge. And we don't compete at the most cost-competitive levels of the market. We lost Walmart. We were doing $5 million a year. A company called Dorfman Pacific, $4 million a year, took all of the knocked off our product in China. And so we have more struggled to survive than thrive during most of those 150 years. But it's music to my ears to hear that younger people wearing hats in more hat stores, because we will get some of that market share.
I'm telling you, it is, and I seriously, you don't go anywhere in at least my district, South Street.
Yep.
There's a huge interest down there in terms of retail.
Yep.
Seeing it down there, Center City, South Philadelphia, even areas like in Fishtown and Northern Liberties. It is, the hat stores and the desire for these types of products.
Great.
So I mean, I think you've got a real success. Hopefully a very good opportunity for success going forward, because you certainly are hitting on a surge right now. So thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Senator Farnese, is Slacks and Jacks still on South Street? Just kidding. Remember that store? Yeah. Mr. Croft.
Senators, just very quickly, I'd like to recommend possibly a field hearing at the hat factory when it might be convenient to bring some other members and the public to the hat factory and to tell this story.
It's a great idea.
Get the story out. But I'd like to ask Don if he could, just to talk some more about the seriousness of the cost of bringing these jobs back, because some other states are out, they're beating us in terms of providing that kind of assistance to companies which are trying to do that.
Okay.
When we looked at this opportunity, I mean, we were buying specialized knitting equipment that was custom built to make this product, and so we weren't looking at buying off-the-shelf knitting machines and trying to figure out how to use that to make our product. The knitting machines that I know of that are out there cost somewhere around $35,000 to $60,000 a piece. And we bought over 100 of these custom machines to the United States and paid considerably less. We have over $1 million invested in this project now. In your blue packet, there is a list of the costs that were involved in making this. We received a Governor's Action Team grant for $60,000, which was certainly a help, and some training grants as well. But the reality is it's a fraction of the total cost of this project. Our estimates was going to cost over $650,000. We're over $1,077,000 now, as you'll see in your packet, and we're still, haven't climbed the mountain yet. So it's a phenomenal investment. PBS did a piece about the reshoring initiative. We call this shoring because these jobs were never here before. This equipment was never here before. This is something that we brought here and started. But the PBS piece mentioned a furniture making company in Mississippi that received a grant for $1.4 million and created 150 jobs in part of a 3-year period. We're to create 41 jobs for the $60,000 grant, which we will have to refund if we don't retain those jobs in Pennsylvania. If I did that math, it's about $219,000 in equivalent grant money that we would have received based on the formula of the Mississippi company. We're not asking for grants necessarily, and I don't look to the government to help us figure out how to be great stewards of our company. It's up to us to do it. But certainly it is very, very difficult to compete given the global economy and the cost of making this product offshore. And so we brought it here because we think that that's controlling our destiny best as employee owners, that we're going to provide not just for our people, but for ultimately our customers. But we could use some support in the form of grants, training credits, low-interest loans. Now, as an employee-owned company, when we pursued an SBA loan kind of arrangement, it required personal guarantees from the owners. Well, our owners are our employee owners, so we're not going to ask a person on a factory floor making, $35,000 a year to personal guarantee an SBA loan for the company to acquire this equipment. Our employee owners are very passionate about our efforts to bring this equipment here, and very proud of the fact that we're America's oldest hat maker and founders of American Made Matters. But we're not asking them to put, to go into their pockets or put their homes in jeopardy in guaranteeing loans. So we could use additional support in the form of grants or low-interest loans, certainly training credits. But the training credits have to be without too many strings because, quite honestly, we can't find people to train us to operate these machines because that expertise doesn't exist. This is not high-tech, but they are family-sustaining jobs, and we can't find robotics to make these hats. We're going to make them by hand, but that provides meaningful jobs as opposed to less jobs that can be taken over by machines.
Mr. Rongione, your testimony, pardon me, is a perfect example of why we think these caucuses are important, and for us to begin to assimilate more of the information from the manufacturing sector, the industrial sector, and so that we can understand the interrelationship between government and the private sector. Every business has an interesting story, but yours is more interesting because of the risk that you knowledgeably assumed and brought to your business to try and become more successful. So I applaud you for what you and your owner-operators have decided to do. So
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you. It's always good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be David Taylor, who is the president and as well as a board member of the Pennsylvania Manufacturing Association here in Harrisburg. David is no stranger to any of us. Mr. Taylor, good morning.
Thank you very much, Senator Mensch. Thanks to all of the members who are present. Thank you for your interest in manufacturing through your participation in the caucuses. I am not going to inflict the fullness of my testimony upon you, but I am going to summarize here to walk you through my thoughts on the subject at hand. First of all, let me introduce the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association is the century-old statewide not-for-profit organization representing the people who make things in Pennsylvania here in the state's public policy process. We are the official Pennsylvania partner of the National Association of Manufacturers, and that PMA also is proud to be allied with the regional and local manufacturing associations across the Commonwealth. And to that end, I want to recognize my colleague Tom Pallison from the Manufacturers Association based in York, which serves South Central Pennsylvania. Speaking to the subject that we're to address today, I really want to focus almost exclusively on the competitiveness and reshoring issue. The robotics and 3D printing technology, additive manufacturing they call it, these are going to be transformational. They're going to affect our industry in ways that we really can't quite imagine now. But in terms of Pennsylvania competitiveness and bringing back jobs from overseas, those things are going to apply more or less across the board, that you can deploy a technology anywhere. Although the one potential benefit would be if an industry cluster would form. I know that robotics in particular has been a focus of Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and so potentially there are some gains to be made there. I don't want to in any way undervalue the enormous importance of research and development, but let me just speak to the larger theme of competitiveness and reshoring. And let's also, my caveat at the beginning is that there's an awful lot wrong that can only be solved in Washington by the President and Congress. So let's focus on the good that we can do and should do here in Harrisburg on behalf of Pennsylvania employers. The goal of Pennsylvania policymakers should be to make it the smart business decision for employers to locate, expand, and hire here in the Commonwealth rather than in one of our competitor states. The goal of federal policymakers should be to optimize conditions for economic growth in the United States so American businesses can compete worldwide. In both instances, energy production from the Marcellus Shale natural gas formation offers the way forward for a century of prosperity for Pennsylvania and the nation. Manufacturing is the engine that drives our economy. It adds the most value, generating $82 billion in value added every year, which is roughly 12% of gross state product. Manufacturing also has the strongest multiplier effect on job creation, as the 500,000 manufacturing jobs on the plant floor sustain millions of additional Pennsylvania jobs in supply chains, distribution networks, and through vendors of industrial services. Manufacturing requires energy. No matter what is being made, manufacturers deploy a multi-stage process that uses energy to transform raw materials and/or component parts into a finished good. For some manufacturers, energy is the largest cost input in their process. Abundant, affordable, available energy can help bring jobs back to the United States in general and Pennsylvania in particular. And so this is the, I would say this is the most important part of my testimony, so if you would break out your mental highlighter, this is the point I want to get across. Our challenge today is the availability of Pennsylvania energy because our transmission infrastructure is pointed in the wrong direction. We have pipelines that are directed toward the Gulf of Mexico because that's where Pennsylvania purchased natural gas from in the time before the Marcellus Shale formation was developed. Even today, customers in southeastern Pennsylvania are buying natural gas from Louisiana and Texas because of insufficient pipeline capacity from western Pennsylvania and northeastern Pennsylvania to the Philadelphia metropolitan area. Because customers are paying for both the energy molecules and the cost of transmission, this means those Pennsylvania energy consumers are paying higher prices than they would if they were able to purchase natural gas from Pennsylvania. And to illustrate this point, I want to mention Armstrong World Industries in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that it's the perfect example of the kind of result that I think we all want to see, which is Armstrong was able to bring a third-party manufacturing function in their process that was being done in China to the home facility in Lancaster City. They rehabbed one of their ancient brick warehouses on their campus to bring in this new function, and that the primary differential that made that possible was the cost of energy. And so this is the way forward for making Pennsylvania more competitive and bringing back these kinds of jobs. Also, in support of this very important point, deploying new in-state Pennsylvania infrastructure, there's an organization called the Pennsylvania Energy Infrastructure Alliance. The foundational partners were the Washington County Chamber, the Delaware County Chamber, LIUNA, and the operating engineers. This is an organic business-labor partnership in support of deploying new in-state energy infrastructure. And again, Tom's organization, the Manufacturers Association, is part of that. So this is the second most important thing that I'm going to say. And to that end, if you would take my prepared testimony and go to Appendix B, this infographic. But there's an even greater opportunity that is being overlooked. In the western part of the Marcellus Shale Formation, the natural gas, which is methane, comes out of the ground with large amounts of ethane, butane, propane, and natural gasoline. These byproducts are valuable manufacturing inputs, which is why Royal Dutch Shell has committed to build a multi-billion-dollar petrochemical facility in Beaver County. That plant, the only one of its kind in the entire northeastern United States, will crack a hydrogen molecule off the ethane to make ethylene. Ethylene, as you can see through this value chain graphic, is the precursor of every kind of paint, glaze, solvent, adhesive, coating, plastic, styrofoam, and rubber that goes into every kind of consumer good that you and I purchase, handle, and use every day. And each step of petrochemical processing is a manufacturing activity that adds value. This industry has the potential to add value the way the steel industry adds value, by making the stuff other people make stuff out of. By shortening supply chains, every manufacturer in Pennsylvania that uses ethylene or ethylene-derived manufacturing inputs will save money, making their Pennsylvania plants more profitable and therefore more competitive. Businesses that use those inputs will have a significant reason to locate or expand in Pennsylvania to be closer to their source. The potential cost savings from more affordable energy and manufacturing inputs may lead companies to return to the United States from where they are operating overseas. If state leaders optimize conditions for the growth of this new natural gas-powered petrochemical manufacturing industry, Pennsylvania will experience a century of economic prosperity, generations of job opportunities, and population growth like we haven't seen in decades. Pennsylvania will help make America an energy superpower, strengthening our position in global affairs by helping our allies disentangle themselves from energy relationships with hostile powers like Russia. Closer economic relationships with our allies through energy will help us to draw closer with them in support of our shared national security interests. But all of this depends on maximizing domestic energy production and allowing the private sector to build out the transmission infrastructure to deliver that energy and those feedstocks to Pennsylvania manufacturers. Of course, we won't miss what we never had, so this is the time for choosing. We can take the necessary steps to achieve this petrochemical manufacturing opportunity, which will be bigger than the drilling, or we will allow it to slip away. If Pennsylvania had been an independent country in the late 19th century, we would have been the third largest economy on earth, behind only Great Britain and the rest of the United States. The opportunity before us can return Pennsylvania to a place of preeminent industrial leadership in the nation and the world. But it's up to us. And with that, I'll do my best to answer your questions.
Let me just add to what you said. You said we can't miss what we didn't have, but we did have it. It was in the oil industry, if you recall. Down in the Philadelphia, the southeast region, down in the state of Delaware, with the oil companies and the crackers, each of those premises had crackers there. They were doing the distillate breaking apart. It's why we had DuPont. It's why we had ICI, Atlas Chemical, Roman Hawes, Penwalt, on, all the chemical companies that were in the Philadelphia market region, and the tens of thousands of jobs that we had there at one time as a consequence. So we didn't have it in the natural gas, you're right, but in a very similar industry, we have seen that success, and it was part of what contributed to Pennsylvania being such a strong economy 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And I have enough gray hair that I can remember when they were actually there and they were clients. But, you know.
And actually, Senator, if I could cue off that,
Sure.
believe it or not, Pennsylvania's legacy industrial infrastructure, our brownfields, are in fact an asset. That even as you saw the Royal Dutch Shell building on what had been the horsehide, what is it called, the zinc plant there, that the brownfield and all of the legacy infrastructure, railways, roads, even if you have to rebuild every last scrap of it, it's already laid out. You don't have to rezone it. And so in a way, that infrastructure is there waiting to be reborn, and that's an asset, which is sort of paradoxical, but it's true.
Your comments are well taken. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Just
Senator
one
Ward.
comment, you know, we appreciate everything that you do, and I just encourage you, and I encourage all the manufacturers to make sure you stay in touch with government officials, because it seems our Commonwealth, and probably unlike any other state, you know, we want to regulate and tax out of existence and make it harder and harder for businesses to thrive here. So anything you can do, everybody in the audience, to encourage us to keep the regulations to a minimum and not put Pennsylvania at a disadvantage with surrounding states.
Well, thank you, Senator. And I would just to say that it's not good enough just to be not quite as bad as New York and New Jersey. We need to continue to benchmark Pennsylvania's performance against the high-performing states, Indiana, North Carolina, other places. So we may be better than our immediate neighbors, but I would argue that that's still not good enough.
Senator Stefano.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Taylor. That was right up echoing my thoughts exactly. For us to reshore a lot of these industries, we need to be close to our energy sources. And that's really what helps us to be more competitive. So I echo those sentiments, and I couldn't agree with Senator Ward anymore, saying that we need to have a regulatory environment that's friendly to business so we can grow. If we want our state to be #1 again, this is what we need. So I appreciate your organization's efforts to keep the pressure on so we move in that direction. So
Well, thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Evan Malone, President and CEO of NextFab, Philadelphia. And that was my new friend out in the hallway. I was reading off my phone, walking down the hall, and I looked up and I said, where am I? In the guts of this, and this gentleman, actually, I followed you.
Thank you, Senator Ward. You actually helped me find the room, so we helped each other out. So good morning, and thank you, Senators. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to provide some testimony for the caucuses of economy, business, jobs, and manufacturing. So thank you very much for having me here today. Also wanted to thank Senator Farnese in particular for his support of my business in Philadelphia. And so I'll explain what is NextFab. So NextFab is a for-profit social enterprise. I'm going to throw a lot of terms around that some people may not be all that familiar with, but for-profit. Looks like it, yeah. Not close enough. Can everyone hear me now? Okay. Sorry. Apologize for that. Do you want me to rewind or just keep rolling? Okay. Thank you again, Senator Farnese, for your enthusiastic support of NextFab. So, all right, continuing forward. Thank you for the AV assistance. NextFab is a for-profit social enterprise, so it's basically a for-profit business with a social mission, and we're trying to use profit-making activities to scale up this mission that we think is very important. We operate maker spaces and hardware technology incubators. So does anybody want me to explain Makerspace? Anybody not heard Makerspace before? Okay. Makerspace, in essence, it's like a fitness gym kind of a membership facility, but instead of exercising, you're making products using a variety of tools. And it's a growing industry. There are a lot of new Makerspace flavors out there, some catering to artists, some catering to traditional crafts, some to food, you might even say. Ours in particular is focused on advanced manufacturing technology. and helping people turn their ideas into products and launch businesses around those products. So how did I come to this sort of interesting combination of you know, new industry entities? Well, my background is in physics and engineering. I'm a transplant to Pennsylvania from Colorado. Went to University of Pennsylvania and studied physics. Went on to pursue a PhD in mechanical engineering at Cornell University, where I studied 3D printing. So it's a, you know, at that time, 2002 was pretty new technology in terms of, I guess, having real-world applications. It was something of a novelty that was being used in large defense contractors and certain, you know, product development, R&D, curiosity type of applications. But I was involved in trying to find ways to make additive manufacturing or 3D printing technology very practical, and the vision I had was driven by my fascination with science fiction. So Star Trek has this idea of a replicator. You sort of speak what you want to